All right, we are live here, Taylor Sportsplex, Bell Tire, Bigby, States Game 1. Starting us off, we're going to have Markovich, Dobbs, Agbe, Caitlin Flanagan, and Martin with Grund in net. All right, 17 minutes on the clock. Dobbs on this draw. Here we go. Puck is down. Bigby with the puck coming up through neutral. Gaining the zone. Circling back. Going up to their blue line. Dropping back. Intercepted by Martin. Sent ahead to Agbe. Just off her stick into neutral. Bigby retreating back into their own zone momentarily. Stepped up was Dobbs to cut off that pass. Markovich now battling just below us. That puck dumped down into Caitlin. Caitlin sending it across to Martin. Martin going up the boards, loses it for a moment, sends it up to Agbe. Now picked up by Palucci, who's checked in for Bell Tire. Palucci sending it up the wall, looking for Hewer. Hewer up against the wall. And now that puck down to Flanagan, sending it up to Palucci. That puck's going to make its way to Grund, who sends it wide of the net. Pick it up by Martin. Martin moving it up the wall, hitting Kazarowski. And Bigby now coming back up through neutral. Defended by Mackenzie Flanagan here. Checked in on D for Bell Tire. Martin down into the corner. And that puck sent out front. Missed opportunity by Bigby. Collected in by Flanagan up against the boards here. Sent ahead by Hewer. That's going to roll the length here. It's going to go down into the Bigby zone. 15:42 on the clock. Sent up ahead. On ice we've got Cruciano, Evans, Clemens, Mackenzie Flanagan, and Morton. Going out wide from Clemens to Morton. Morton crossing center, going down into the Bigby zone. Chasing down is Evans. Down in the corner, battling up against the wall. Clemens picking it free, sending it back to Caitlin. Flanagan back in on D. Caitlin's shot makes it through. Turned aside by Bigby's goalie, now behind the bench. Sorry for the delay there. I had a phone call come in. That puck is dropped down to Flanagan up at the point. Bowman stepped in for Bell Tire. Now we've got Markovich, Agbe, Dobbs out on for Bell Tire with Bowman and Caitlin Flanagan. Cleared out of the Bigby zone into neutral, picked up by Bowman. Bowman sending it ahead. Icing wave down in behind the Bigby net. Bigby collected, coming up, and that is cut off by Martin. Martin now with possession going up the boards, finding Kazarowski. Looks like that is icing wave. Kazarowski is going to try and send it around behind the Bigby net. Hewer jumped in now with Palucci. So on ice, Hewer, Palucci, Kazarowski, Mackenzie Flanagan, Martin, Bigby with possession coming up through neutral. Jumping up ahead is Martin. Martin getting that puck up ahead to Kazarowski. Kazarowski sending it deep into the Bigby zone. 13:46 on the clock. Bigby pushing that up the wall, picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan shot in off the shoulder of Bigby's goalie. And bouncing around now, picked up by Kazarowski, who sends it deep down for Palucci. Checked in is Evans. Kazarowski sending it to Evans. Evans trying to find a centering pass to Palucci. Palucci now with possession. Palucci dangling through. That's going to roll just off the stick out to neutral, sending it wide to Martin. Martin going inside to Cruciano. And Bigby finally clears, picked up by Clemens as she's just stepped in off the bench. Now Martin picking it up here in her own zone. Circling behind her net, turning up ice. Martin finding a lane. Martin's going to cruise through, up through neutral, gaining the zone. Shot on is going to be covered up by Bigby's goalie to freeze play with 13 minutes even on the clock. All right, on the draw here, we're going to have the Flanagans in for Bell Tire. Looks like Dobbs, Markovich, Agbe on ice. Bigby with possession behind their own net. Agbe gaining possession now. Dobbs battling in the corner. Agbe stepping in to help. Agbe pushing it back to Flanagan. Flanagan shot in, hits a skate out front, goes wide. Chipped ahead by Bigby and sent right back in by Flanagan. That was Mackenzie Flanagan. At the half wall, Bigby hung up at a skate. Reversing back, sending it up the wall. Picked up by McKenzie. McKenzie sending it back in. Deflected by Bigby. Bigby's going to send it down ice. They're going to get an icing on this call. So as we resume here, you're going to have Caitlin Flanagan out with Martin, Kazarowski, Palucci, and Hewer to take the draw. Bigby with possession. Moving it up the wall, down into the corner at the half wall. Kazarowski stepping into it by pressure. Palucci in to help. Centering pass by Kazarowski. Gets picked up by Bigby. Sent around. Kazarowski stepping back in now behind the net. Palucci hitting the brakes in the corner. Moving it around to Hewer. Hewer working her way free. Going up to Martin. Martin at the blue. Martin shot. Is down in front. And Hewer trying to jump in on the rebound. Couldn't quite get there. Great backhand by Palucci, getting it to Hewer. Hewer walking the line. Hewer dumping it back in. No place to go. Sends it behind the net. Picked up by Kazarowski. Sent back around. Now Martin up at the point. Martin sending it back into the corner. Kazarowski picking it up at the half wall. Kazarowski chipping it ahead for Palucci. She's going to go for a change. Evans screaming in off on Morton, checking in for Beltire on D here. So out on ice, we've got Cruciano, Evans, Morton, Martin. Evans going up the wall to Morton. Morton sending it back down deep for Evans. Clemens checked in for Beltire. Martin going for a change. Checking in is Mackenzie Flanagan. And Bigby's going to make their way out of the zone into neutral. Coming up through neutral, they're going to get a shot on net that's going to be covered up by Grund. Who frees play. 11 minutes, 2 seconds remaining here in this first period of States. Dobbs on the draw. Out there with Markovich, Agbe, Morton, and Mackenzie Flanagan. Puck is down. Bigby with possession, sending it up to their point. Shot in, turned aside by Grund. Down into the corner, tipped back behind their net, sending it out front. Agbe stepping in to make that pass go wide. Agbe applying more pressure down into the corner. It's going to be picked up by Morton, moving it around to Flanagan. Flanagan, room to work. Moving it up to Markovich. Markovich going up ice, sending it deep. And into the hunt is Agbe. Sent back around. That's going to go the length of the ice here. We should have an icing call on this one. 10 minutes, 29 seconds remaining here in this first period. On ice, Evans, Clemens, Cruciano, and the Flanagans on D. As we get going here, moving it around, picked up by Evans behind the Bigby net. Bigby with possession now. Moving it up ice. Center ice, picked up by Flanagan, sent ahead. Icing waved. Down into the corner of Bigby zone. Evans applying pressure. Cruciano now stepping in to cut off the pass at the half wall. And that puck finally picked free and now picked up by Flanagan, who sends it back down deep into the Bigby zone. Clemens coming for a change. Cruciano going for a change. Hewer, Palucci stepping out for Beltire. I'm sorry, Cruciano now going to the bench. That must have been Evans before my. That goes wide of the net, sent around. Picked up by Mackenzie in the corner. Caitlin moving up ice. Going to center for Hewer. Hewer sends it deep into the Bigby zone and chases. And that is Kazarowski getting a stick on it. Moving out front. Now picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan's shot hits Kazarowski. And Kazarowski sends it back momentarily before it's intercepted by Bigby and brought out to neutral. Palucci applying pressure. Bigby having to retreat a bit. Moved up into neutral. And that's going to get sent ahead. We're going to have Bowman back here defending against Bigby in the corner. Centering pass, nobody home. Flanagan sending it wide for Kazarowski. Kazarowski going to Dobbs. Dobbs driving the zone. Dobbs, quick move around. Dobbs takes the shot. Puck is loose behind the net. Bigby with possession, sending it up the half wall. Picked up by Martin. Martin sending it right back in. picked up by Agbe. Agbe now turns, shot, and that gets blocked and picked up by Markovic, who sends it deep. Dobbs now with possession, sending it back to Martin. That jumps Martin's stick, and Martin racing back, gain possession, sends it back up before it enters the zone. Martin now trying to catch it, and that puck sent deep into the Bell Tire zone. And now Morton on the hunt here, sends it over to Martin. Martin with possession at her feet, sending it around for Agbe. Agbe moving it ahead, gains the zone, exits the zone, picked up by Clemens. Clemens driving into the Big B zone, takes a shot, goes wide of the net. Evans jumped back in for Bell Tire with Cruciano. Martin, Caitlin Flanagan, Clemens on ice for Bell Tire. Clemens going for a change, jumping on is Palucci. Puck comes free. Drop back for Martin, now picked up by Palucci. In stride, Palucci circling, trying to come back out front. And that puck is still free. Evans now with possession, sending it back down for Palucci. Palucci chipping it around the Big B net. And Flanagan picking it back up top. Flanagan shot in, gets deflected, picked up by Palucci. Palucci coming around, shot in by, and it's going to get covered up by Big B's goalie to freeze play. With Bell Tire is pouring it on Big B right now. Just need to find the back of the net. 7 minutes and 25 seconds. Martin's going for a change here, along with Cruciano. Checked in are the Flanagans, Kazarowski, Hewer, Palucci. That puck is down, frozen at the dot, picked up by Big B. They gain neutral. Defended by Caitlin Flanagan, tracked down by Palucci. Palucci sends it to the corner. Picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan sends it around, looking for Kazarowski at the half wall. Kazarowski moving it up the boards, taken down in process. Hewer trying to chip it ahead, gets it into the zone. Flanagan going for a change. Bowman stepped out on D for Bell Tire. Sent in by Bigby, picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan off the glass, out to neutral. Markovic hunting there in neutral. And Bowman takes a spill there at the edge of the boards, picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan moving her way around, sending it up to Agbe. Agbe gaining half ice. Agbe with possession, dropping it to Markovic. Markovic backhand, back up to Agbe. Agbe dropping in the corner at the half wall. Markovic stepping back in. Now Agbe. And that's going to make it past with an icing. We're going to restart here with Flanagan, Mackenzie Flanagan, Martin out on D, Markovic, Agbe, and Dobbs. Dobbs on the draw. Puck is down. Bigby at the half wall, sent back to Flanagan. Flanagan going inside to Markovic. Markovic sending it deep. Bigby with possession behind their net, moving it up. Disrupted by Dobbs. Martin now sending it back to Dobbs. Back up top. That's going to go to center ice. This is going to be chased or defended by Flanagan. Martin with a stick lift, disrupting the play. Shot goes wide of the net. Flanagan behind her own net. Picked up by Dobbs. And now sent out front. Martin stepping in. And with possession, Martin moving it out. Martin with a quick move across, trying to slide it through. Collected by Dobbs. Miscommunication. That's going to roll up to the blue line. And Dobbs is going to go hard into that Bigby player. Backhanded out by Markovic. Martin now stepping in. Martin moving it up ice, going across center. Cruciano jumping in with Evans, Clemens. Gaining neutral is Bigby. Bigby trying to drive to the net, and Martin with a stick lift out front. That puck makes its way out of the zone. Down into neutral. Bigby with possession in their own zone, sending it up back up through neutral. Picked up by Martin. Martin looking, going up top for Cruciano. Cruciano gets it just tipped in, picked back up by Bigby. Martin with possession now, and then rolls off her stick in neutral, picked up by Clemens. Clemens turning up ice. She's going to go up through and drop it deep into the Bigby zone where it circles around to the half wall. Kazarowski's there, driving through, trying to get possession. That's picked up, skated in, shot in by Morton, I believe. Picked up by Palucci. Palucci now behind the Bigby net. Palucci working her way to the corner. Palucci hits the brakes at the half wall, turns back in towards the corner. Palucci, centering pass, goes across, hits the wall, goes up to Caitlin Flanagan. Flanagan dropping it down to Hewer. Hewer's shot, going to get deflected wide of the net, picked back up by Hewer. 4:23 on the clock. Sent wide by Hewer to Palucci. Palucci dropping it to Morton. Morton sending it back in. And keeping that puck alive is Morton. Now picked up by Hewer. Hewer with a little bit of room here. Hewer. Shot goes wide of the net. Picked up by Kazarowski. Kazarowski's shot goes wide of the net. Now Caitlin Flanagan. Flanagan with possession at the half wall. Flanagan. Backhand to Hewer. Hewer dropping in. Going down to Palucci. Sent behind the Big B net. Picked up by Morton. Agbay checked back in for Beltire here. Agbay coming in off the bench. Almost with possession now. Mackenzie Flanagan pulling back. Going ahead to Agbay. Agbay driving deep. Dobbs in to help. Dobbs going across to Agbay looking for Markovic. Markovic going to send it down deep. Agbay with possession now in the corner. Bigby trying to drop it up to Markovic. Dobbs going centering pass looking for Markovic, and that's going to get sent to length. Or nice. All right, Beltire needs to find the back of the net here with 3 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in this period. First period of play. Dobbs, Markovic, Agbay, Mackenzie Flanagan, Martin on ice for Beltire. As we get moving again, that puck is won back to Flanagan. Mackenzie with possession. Mackenzie shot in, gloved, but bouncing around. Picked back up by Agbay, out to Martin. Martin's shot is going to go wide of the net. Picked up by Markovic at the half wall, sending it down deep for Dobbs. Dobbs battling in the corner. Agbay stepping in to help. Agbay with possession. Now Dobbs. Bigby moving it around the backside of the net. Martin there to disrupt the play. This is going to be picked up by Markovic. Markovic hits the brakes, goes back up ice, looking for Cruciano. Picked up by Martin. Martin tipping it ahead, finding Evans. Evans going ahead to Cruciano. Bigby in their own zone. Cruciano applying pressure, making Bigby mishandle the puck there off the half wall. Picked up by Martin. Martin shot in. Is going to go off the shoulder of the goalie and hit the netting to freeze play with 2:32 on the clock. All right, so the Flanagan's in on D for Beltire. Clemens, Evans, Cruciano out. Evans in the corner, dropping it back to Cruciano. Cruciano at the half wall. Bigby playing it back down behind their own net. Trying to send it around is Evans. Evans dropping it back up top. Nobody there. Bigby with possession now in neutral. Disrupted by Caitlin Flanagan. Flanagan moving ahead back into Bigby's zone. She's going to stay with it as the entire team goes for a change. Outsteps Hewer, Palucci, Kazarowski, and Morton. Morton backhands. Trying to keep that puck out of the zone. Bigby with possession now in neutral. Hewer to chase. Dropped back in at neutral. Turned aside by Kazarowski. Kazarowski now moving her way up the wall. Kazarowski with the line. Shot in. Gets turned aside by Bigby's goalie up to the half wall. And that puck's going to get cleared out. Length of the ice. Another icing. 1 minute, 40 seconds remaining in this period. All right, on ice, Flanagan's, Hewer, Palucci. Kazarowski. Tipped back for Flanagan. Flanagan's shot is blocked by somebody and ends up in Bigby's zone. They're going to chip it ahead. It's going to go wide of the net. Picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan moving it up. That's going to make its way to the point. Picked up by Kazarowski. Kazarowski driving ahead. And Bigby with possession now, coming up into neutral. Dobbs, Agbay stepping back out for Beltire along with Markovic. That's defended by Flanagan. Picked up by Dobbs in the corner. Dobbs moving it up the half wall, finding Agbay. Agbay chipping it off the wall, trying to get it ahead. Gets disrupted by Bigby. They've got it in neutral. And Dobbs now in the hunt. Markovic, Dobbs applying pressure. Sent ahead, picked up by Martin. Martin moving ahead now into the zone. Martin gains shot. It's gonna go just off the glove. And that's getting sent down the ice by Bigby. We're gonna have an icing. All right, Beltire applying lots of pressure here. 30 some seconds, 39 seconds remaining here in this period. Dobbs on the draw, sent back to Flanagan. Flanagan shot in, gets kicked aside, picked up by Martin. Martin backhands it up to the half wall. That's going to roll out to neutral. This is going to be chased down by Martin and Flanagan. Mackenzie Flanagan pulling back, moving it to Martin behind her own net. Martin going up ice, and that puck intercepted and sent back into the zone. Off the wall, picked up by Evans. Moving it into the Big B zone. And Big B with possession now. Clemens stepped out. Morton jumps in, sends that puck deep into the Big B zone. 2 seconds remaining here, picked up by Morton. And that will be the end of the first period. Score is 0-0. This break in action, Coach Dan has shown him how to hit the net.
What did you say?
I said in this break in action, Coach Dan is drawing out how to hit the net.
Yeah, right.
It's like this rectangle.
I didn't even get a laugh out of Ken for that one. Ken, I feel like you should laugh at that one. The puck goes between the 2 red pipes. No points are awarded.
It's like the Canadians after the U.S. beat them. Like, oh, we dominated that game. You know who won the game. Wait a second. The objective is the fucking... You couldn't pass all that.
And I'm just joking, girls. I know you guys can hit the net. All right, as we get going here again, we should have a little closer perspective as long as we keep up the pressure in the Big B zone. To start us off here in this second period, Kazarowski, Hewer, Palucci, Caitlin Flanagan, and Martin. Hewer on the draw, 17 minutes on the clock, second period. Puck is down, Big B with possession. They're going to slide it ahead through neutral. It's going to make its way down to the corner. It's going to be picked up by Martin. Martin's going to drop it back. Ahead for Hewer. Kazarowski stepping in to help. Down into the corner. At the half wall, they pushed it up. That shot's going to go in on net. Gloved by Grund. I believe that is the second or third shot Grund has faced tonight. These games challenging for goalies. There's not a lot of action. Markovich, Agbe, Dobbs stepping in for Beltire. Dobbs on the draw. Puck one back. Shot in, turned aside by Agbe. Good block. At the half wall, frozen, where Dobbs picks it free. Dobbs going to try and check it ahead for Agbe. Dobbs keeping it moving. Now at half ice. Agbe slamming it through. Trying to keep it moving. Agbe now battling right below us at the bench line here. Markovich stepping in, moving it back for Flanagan. Rolls just past his stick. This is going to be picked up by Martin. Martin moving it around, finding Flanagan. Caitlin Flanagan moving it up ahead. Picked up by Clemens. And now at half ice, picked up by Martin. Martin's going to send it away now down into the Big B zone. Chased down by Cruciano in the corner. Help. Evans jumping in to help. Morton. Mackenzie Flanagan stepped in for Beltire on D here. That puck's wide. Picked up by Morton. Sent in. Delayed ice. or I'm sorry, delayed offsides. Bigby behind their own net. Now Morton picking it up at the half wall. Centering pass blocked aside by Bigby. Now Morton circling, dropping it back for Flanagan. Flanagan shooting it down into the corner, looking for Evans. Evans moving it all the way around at the half wall, picked up by Morton, sending it ahead. Picked up by Palucci, who takes a shot that goes wide of the net. At the half wall, Flanagan trying to step in. Palucci grabs that attempted clear, coming in. She moves it behind the net. Pass shot by Kazarowski. Double time, 3 opportunities. Kazarowski hammering that goalie from Big B. Good effort by Kazarowski on the centering pass from Palucci. And then she got 2 of her own rebounds, just couldn't quite get it hammered home. Hewer on this draw. Flanagan's out on D. Kazarowski and Palucci for Beltire. Kazarowski moving it back to Flanagan. Flanagan back to Kazarowski. Kazarowski shot in on net. Gets turned aside, and that's going to clear the zone out to neutral. Sent rink wide to Palucci. Palucci at center ice. Turning up ice. Palucci gaining the zone. Centering pass. Coming across. Hewer there. Kazarowski now down in the corner. She's going to dump it behind her back and find Hewer behind the net. Hewer dragging along in the corner. Hewer going to drop it back for Palucci. Palucci sending it across. That's going to be picked up by Flanagan. Caitlin dropping it down to the corner for Kazarowski. Kazarowski drawing 2 players on her. Picked free. Picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan circling at the half wall. Moving it back behind the net. Palucci. Dropped down by Dobbs. Dobbs moving back to Flanagan. Flanagan moving it up back to Dobbs. Agbe checked in for Beltire. That puck bouncing across the crease. It's sent aside. Markovich, Agbe, Dobbs back in for Beltire. Played down by Mackenzie Flanagan. Oh, come on. The hand pass is going to be called on Mackenzie. Bowman and Martin are going to step back out for Beltire. We'll have a draw happening just below us. That's going to be taken by Dobbs. Puck is down. Martin sending it in on net. That's going to get turned aside by Bigby's goalie. Sent back up through. Picked up by Martin in neutral. Ahead for Agbe. Agbe chipping it into the zone. Bigby with possession now. Sending it back up through neutral. Picked up by Bowman. Sent back ahead. That's going to gain the Bigby zone momentarily where they got possession. Cruciano. Evans back out for Beltire. Chipped aside. Picked up by Bowman. Bowman moving it ahead for Markovich. Markovich backhand up. Looking for Evans. Bigby with possession, turning in neutral. Coming up through neutral, now center, gaining the Beltire zone. Offsides is going to be the call. With 13 minutes and 18 seconds remaining, Morton and Caitlin Flanagan are going to step out for Beltire, along with Day, Cruciano, and Clemens. Draw is going to be just outside of the Beltire zone, and will be taken by Evans. Puck is down, sent down deep into the Beltire zone. This is going to be picked up in the corner by Caitlin Flanagan. Hits the brakes behind her own net, moving ahead. And going down ice, that's going to make its way for an icing. So as we restart here, we'll keep we're going to have Hewer, Kazarowski, Palucci stepping out with Beltire, and Caitlin Flanagan and Morton. Hewer on this draw. Puck is down. The half wall. Bigby sending it back to their point. D-to-D pass. Shot in. Turned aside by Grund. Picked up by Caitlin Flanagan. Picked up by Kazarowski on the half wall. Kazarowski making a move. Kazarowski gaining the zone. Kazarowski shot in. Just wide of the net, picked up by Morton at the half wall. Morton trying to send it deep. Morton coming across into the slot momentarily, sent out into neutral, picked up by Caitlin Flanagan. Caitlin circling in her own zone, finding a little bit of space, moving it up for Hewer. Hewer shot in, is gonna find the back of the net. Hewer is gonna go from the circle to put Beltire up 1-0. There we go. Bell Tire going up. Good shot by Hewer. All right. So the score 1-0. 12, 22, 28, 22, 26, 12 something on the clock. Agbay, Dobbs, Markovich, Martin, Mackenzie Flanagan out for Bell Tire. Puck is down at the dot, moves ahead. Bigby with possession. A lot of pressure from Dobbs and Agbay. Sending it ahead, moves its way past Flanagan. And now Flanagan's going to move it around to Martin. Martin hitting the brakes, tying it up in the corner, waiting for Dobbs to jump in and help. Dobbs picking it free, getting it up to the half wall. Bigby with possession, sending it back down low. Hits the ref's skate, picked up by Martin. Martin moving up through, and Markovich trying to get that puck free. Finds its way out, chipped ahead by Agbay. Agbay gaining the zone as her team went for a change. Agbay with a backhand and a little shove from behind afterwards, because Agbay putting on the moves with a shot on net as her team went for a change. All right, Kazarowski, Hewer, Palucci out with Caitlin Flanagan and Martin. 11:45 on the clock. Puck is at the dot. Palucci with possessions, sending it backhand. Palucci finds the post. As we get going again here. Hewer on the draw. Puck is down. That puck makes its way free to Kazarowski, turning it back up ice down into the corner. She's going to find it at the half wall and move it down by a backhand to Hewer. Hewer dumping it back behind the net for Palucci. Bigby moving it up the half wall. Picked up by Caitlin Flanagan. Sent down deep by Kazarowski. Hewer now in the corner. Palucci going to grab it at the half wall. Now picked up by Hewer. Hewer's turning, sending it back down deep. Cruciano jumped in for Bell Tire. Cruciano in the corner, dropping it down low for Palucci. Back up to Cruciano. Now up to Flanagan. Flanagan shot in. Drop down out front, loose out front. Evans taken down by Bigby at the half wall. Cruciano gains possession. Now Evans, now Cruciano. Cruciano's shot goes wide of the net. Clemens stepping in at the half wall here. Cruciano with possession. Cruciano behind the Bigby net. Cruciano moving it back to Martin. Martin, shot in, gets blocked by Clemens as a shot, and that goes wide, just barely. Cruciano sending it back across, hits a skate and redirects towards the net. Clemens is going to drop it back for Bowman. That's just going to be past her net. And Bell Tire's going to go for a line change. This is going to be picked up by Martin. Martin moving it up to Bowman. Bowman chipping it ahead for Markovich. Markovich sends it the rest of the way in. Martin going for a change. Mackenzie Flanagan stepping in. Agbay out with Markovich. Dobbs, Bowman. And that is at the feet of Dobbs. And Agbay with a shot. Couldn't quite get it through. Dobbs battling here at the half wall. And Bigby's going to make their way free. That at the feet of Markovich. Markovich center ice here. Agbay trying to move it around. Markovich. And Bigby's going to finally dump it deep into the Bell Tire zone. 9:40 on the clock. Picked up by Mackenzie Flanagan. Moving it backhand up the wall for Dobbs. Dobbs is going to move it the rest of the way into neutral. That's going to find its way through. And not sure what that hit, but it went backwards. And Bigby's going to drop it down deep into the Bell Tire zone where it's going to be chased down by Mackenzie Flanagan. Mackenzie up the wall, finding Palucci. Palucci chipping it ahead for Hewer. Hewer, another shot wide of the net, picked up by Kazarowski on the half wall. Kazarowski centering pass. And an attempt to block that. And Hewer out front. And Bigby with possession now coming through. That's going into the slot, chased down by Hewer. Bigby circling in their own zone. Chased down by Cruciano. And finally sent down deep into the Bell Tire zone, picked up by Flanagan, who sends it wide. Comes out to neutral, picked up by Bigby at half ice. And now trying to bounce it down is Evans. Gaining the zone. Not for long as it's picked up. And Flanagan's now going to move it up ahead. Picked up by Bigby in neutral. Bigby trying to go rink wide. Picked up by Cruciano. Sent ahead by Bigby. McKenzie with possession. Sending it up ahead for Evans. That's going to go deep into the Bigby zone where a line change comes in with Markovic, Agbe, Dobbs. Sent across ice. Picked up by Morton, who kept it in. Now chased down by Markovic. It's going to be picked up by Caitlin Flanagan. Caitlin Flanagan sending it up ahead to Agbe. Misses her stick. They're going to have an icing. A line change for Bell Tire is going to bring out Caitlin Flanagan, Martin, Markovic, Agbe, and Dobbs. 7:51 on the clock. Second period of play. Puck is down. Martin with possession, sending it around. Finding Flanagan, moving it up ahead, trying to get the stretch pass in. Agbe with possession, gaining the slot shot. Blocked by Bigby. Picked up by Markovic in the corner. Now Dobbs. Dobbs moving it around for Agbe. Agbe behind the net, sending it back for Dobbs. Sending it around. Half wall. Agbe. Trying to get it across. And picked up by Markovic. Markovic centering pass. Goes wide. That's going to be picked up by Bigby at the half wall. Diving attempt by Markovic. And that's sent down deep into the Bell Tire zone where Hewer's chasing. Hewer with possession. And Bigby coming across. They are going to make it to the half wall. Attack the puck, girls. Picked up by Hewer. Bigby circling. Centering pass. Blocked by Kazarowski. Pushed to the half wall. Dropping it back. Shot from the point. We're going to have a penalty, it looks like on Bigby. I think Martin drew that penalty. So that'll put Bell Tire up on their first interference is the call. So that'll put Bell Tire up on their first power play. 6:43 on the clock. Martin, McKenzie, Agbe, Markovic, Dobbs on the ice. Dobbs moves it back to Martin. Martin sends it down deep. Over to Dobbs. Dobbs backhand up to Markovic. Markovic sending it back to Dobbs. Dobbs circling back out. Up to Markovic. Markovic moving it up for Mackenzie Flanagan. Flanagan shot. He's going to get tipped by Agbe and find the back of the net. So Bell Tire took about 17 seconds on that clock. And they're going to find the back of the net. All right, so score is 2-0. 6:25 on the clock. Caitlin Bowman out on for Bell Tire. Agbe, Dobbs, and Markovic. Picked up by Caitlin in her own zone. Hits the brakes behind her net. And sending it ahead for an icing. As we get going again, it looks like we're going to have Evans, Cruciano, and Clemens out for Bell Tire with Martin and Mackenzie Flanagan. Clemens moving it up ice at half ice in neutral. Evans going to send it down deep. That puck's going to make its way behind the Bigby net up the half wall, picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan walking. Shot gets blocked out front, and it's going to be picked up by Martin in her own zone. Martin turning this corner and moving it up ahead for Evans. Evans in neutral, sending it deep. That puck's going to roll deep into the corner where Beltire's going to go for a line change, and Hewer, Kazarowski stepped out. Clemens still on ice for Beltire. Clemens going to go for a change. Now stepped up in neutral. Colucci jumping in on ice here for Beltire, picked up by Hewer. Colucci kicking it ahead, getting her stick free, walking in. Little pull and a pullback, drop pass back to Hewer. Now frozen behind the Bigby net. Hewer's going to keep that puck frozen until Colucci can pull it free. Finally makes its way free, sent up the boards, picked up by Martin. Martin centering up, shot in. And that takes out a Bigby player and goes to the half wall. Sent in and picked up by Colucci. Now going up ice is Bigby, gaining neutral. Sending it down deep. Bowman checked in for Beltire along with Caitlin Flanagan. Bowman sending it in the corner where Dobbs is jumping in to help. Dobbs moving it up ahead. Collected by Bigby at the half. Sent back out to neutral by Dobbs. Bigby with possession in neutral. Turning up ice. Agbe, Markovic out on ice for Beltire. Agbe with possession now. Gaining up neutral. Caitlin Flanagan now circling at the half wall. Moving it behind the net. Up to the half wall by Markovic. Now behind the net. Picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan moving it back around. Picked up by Markovic. Markovic trying to move it ahead. And now finally gets it clear out to neutral. And that puck skated in by Markovic. Markovic putting a lot of pressure here. Evans keeping that pressure on. Bigby retreating in their own zone. Evans just circling right with her. Now Cruciano's going to jump in. She's going to get her stick right in her skates. And we will have a Beltire penalty kill here. As Cruciano is going to go to the box. Mackenzie Flanagan, Martin Hewer, Colucci out on ice for Beltire. We have 3 minutes and 22 seconds. So as we get going here, Hewer's on the draw, Beltire on their penalty kill. That puck is down, picked up by Bigby at the half wall, moving it D to D. Beltire just trying to contain, sent down deep. This is going to be picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan's going to send it the length of the ice. That's going to roll down deep into the Bigby zone, chased by Colucci. Colucci on the hunt. Colucci able to get some positioning, circling back up, looking for a backhand to Agbe, finds it. Agbe now with possession. Agbe walking, dropping for Flanagan. Flanagan sending it in, finds the slot, picked up by Bigby behind their net. They're going to drop it and wait for somebody to pick up the puck. All right, Bigby coming up ice, gaining neutral. This is going to be defended, turned in, picked up by Flanagan. Sending it the length, finding Agbe. Oh, just off Agbe's stick. Agbe was free, but it looks like it got held up in the snow at the door. Sent aside. Dobbs battling, making her way through. Backhand, gets a shot on net, and Beltire is doing one heck of a job killing off this penalty with 54 seconds remaining in this penalty kill. As Colucci and Hewer step back out on ice for Beltire with Caitlin Flanagan and Martin. As we get going, puck is dropped back. Flanagan's shot is blocked, picked up by Martin. Martin's gonna swipe it and try it again. Sends it down deep into the Bigby zone. Chased by Hewer, sent wide, picked up by Martin. Martin goes back to the glass, sends it back in. Hewer checks up. Bigby behind their own net, chased by Colucci. Colucci's gonna apply pressure here. Sending it up the half wall. Gaining neutral, picked up by Dobbs. Sent down deep into the Beltire zone. This is going to be chased down by Caitlin Flanagan. Flanagan moving it up the wall. And out front, shot goes wide of the net. Picked up by Dobbs at the half wall. Dobbs is just going to move it up ice. Bellucci's going to be in the hunt, but peel off for a change, as that is going to be 5 seconds remaining here on this penalty kill. Sending it up ice. Martin jumps in, sends it back down into the Big B zone. Picked up by Agbe. Agbe hits the brakes in the corner. Agbe centering pass. Picked up by Dobbs as she's taken down by the goalie. Agbe now coming through the slot. She's going to get tripped. Shot in by Markovic. And we are going to have a Bell Tire power play coming up here. So we have 1-1-1. A minute and 11 seconds remaining here in the second period. Mackenzie Flanagan, Martin, Agbe, Kazarowski, Markovic on ice. Agbe on the draw. Puck is won back. Flanagan in a foot race. Wins it. Finds up to Markovic. Markovic sending it up to Agbe. Agbe coming up D. Oh, looking for a Kazarowski shot in. Free in the crease. Agbe stepping in. Now Martin getting her stick on it. Freezing it at the half wall. Picked up is Kazarowski, and Agbe coming free with it is Kazarowski. Kazarowski, sharp angled shot. Gets blocked by the Big B goalie and gets sent to length. 30 seconds on this clock. Minute 23 on the power play. Dobbs, Hewer, Bellucci checked in. Sending it wide is Mackenzie Flanagan. Now picked up by Bellucci. Bellucci spinning as she gains the zone. Martin trying to step in to keep that puck moving. Picked up by Flanagan. Flanagan sending it around to Hewer. Hewer gaining the zone. Sending it down deep. That's going to rim around to the half wall. Picked up by Bellucci. Bellucci dropping back to Flanagan. Flanagan shot in. Turned aside. Picked up by Martin. And that block gets blocked, goes wide of the net. And that will be the end of the second period of play here. We're going to go for an ice cut. I'm going to make you all jump off. I will be back in 10 minutes. But I'm going to stop the feed for now. And we will come back on for